we're going to be talking about shadow work. That might be scary to some of you, but we're going to give you a 5-step program to help you work through the parts of yourself that are denied, hidden, whatever society deems as not the best parts of us, right? So this could be lying, this could be cheating, stealing, anything along those lines. And all of us have those parts of us. Some of us choose to hide it. Some of us have already dealt with it and integrated it into ourselves. But we're going to go into that a little deeper today. So I hope that sounds good to you. Stay tuned. All right, let's get straight into this. So, first question is, how do you identify your shadow? How do you recognize it? So, I mentioned before that these are the parts of ourselves that we tend to hide, either because we're embarrassed of them or we were told that we shouldn't show these parts of ourselves to the outside world. Here's a few examples. So it could be having weak or no boundaries in relationships. This is personal, platonic, romantic, familial, etc. This could be self-sabotage, lack of confidence, afraid to speak up for yourself, saying yes when you want to say no, jealousy, anxiety, being passive-aggressive, comparing yourself to others, always putting yourself last, not doing what you know is good for you, addictions, fear of abandonment, feeling that something is wrong with you, being a people pleaser, fear of being vulnerable, fear of sharing sexual fantasies. These are many examples that you may find in yourself or others, but this list is not all inclusive as we all have different shadows. Once we have identified what possible shadows that we have within ourselves, then we can start the process to heal these and incorporate them into our personalities. All right. So I do want to discuss that briefly. Again, I said that the list is not all inclusive, but that might be how it shows up in yourself and in others. So when we talk about our shadow self, I actually see things as energy. So when I see my shadow self and someone else's shadow self, they do show up to me as a literal shadow formation, okay? I also can identify someone's light being self, which I call your higher self or your soul. So when we first meet people, we'll talk about this briefly and move on, but when we first meet people, people tend to show you their best self. So they might be putting on more that light body image because they're, again, hiding that other part of them, the other parts of them that they have not chose to integrate within their personality. So a lot of times you don't find that shadow version of them until you have known them a little bit, okay? And then it starts to show, especially if they have not healed and integrated those aspects of themselves. So when you first go on a job, right, you put down on your resume, I'm this great employee and I do all the things you want to hear because I want to get this job. But in reality, maybe you're not the best employee and you just don't want to tell them about that. Again, I'm not advocating for you to put on your your resume that you slouch in your chair and you take many bathroom breaks and don't do your job to the fullest potential. Again, these are kind of shadow elements if you really want to think about it. So when you think about shadow self versus light being self, we have both aspects within us. Everyone does. The thing with the two of them is they need to be integrated into our personality and acknowledged for both parts. Now, when we do our shadow work, we are acknowledging those, what we consider, again, negative traits of ourself, and we are healing them so that they're not hidden anymore, okay? So if you have that fear of abandonment, maybe when you get into a relationship, it could be difficult for someone to have space in the relationship. Maybe they don't call every day. Maybe they don't show up when they say they're going to show up. This can actually trigger your fear of abandonment wound. Okay, so that's just one example of how it can show up in relationships. If you find that you like to cling in relationships or you have an unhealthy attachment style, That again could trigger your fear of abandonment in relationships. So let's get into the steps of how I integrate my shadow and heal them so that we don't have to hide them anymore. And I do want to just foremention this. This is not the be all end all way of doing things. This is how I found worked for me, and I'm hoping that it's going to help someone else out there on their journey and how to integrate their shadow self. So, step one, get yourself a journal. Write in it every day. And if you can't write in it every day, that's totally fine. But you know what? At least make the effort to try to write in it as often as you possibly can. Now, I know that there are people out there that do their shadow work that don't journal. And yeah, okay, it can be done without doing that step. But I find that I'm more honest with myself when I journal. So I'm putting the things on paper. I'm writing out exactly how I'm feeling, exactly how I felt when something triggered me. And I've even gone into the past version of myself to be honest again with what happened back then. What could I have done differently in that situation? And how could that other person have reacted differently? So journaling for me really has more to do with you opening up with absolute honesty and not worrying about, is somebody else going to read this? Like if I'm saying something that again may be perceived as negative toward myself or towards someone else or towards a relationship, it's not having that fear of, oh no, what would ever happen if that person read this information? Would they be upset? So it's almost like, again, you're hiding that part of yourself because it's that fear of judgment now. So when you do your journaling, be perfectly honest with yourself. It will serve you best when you're trying to integrate your shadow. Okay, let's talk about step 2. So for me, step 2 is meditation or prayer or whichever one of those terms resonates with you. It is basically the time that you spend in silence with yourself, okay? And if journaling brings that on, then that's even better. But I find it easier for me with meditation. So what I'm doing in that process is I'm going within. So I know that I have a tarot channel and I talk about, go within so you never go without. Meditation can facilitate that. There are many other ways to do that. If it works best for you to go sit on the ground outside in nature, to take a shower, these are all kind of meditative type practices that we can utilize to connect with our soul being and our shadow self. Now, however that works best for you, utilize your method, okay? Again, I'm just advocating for what worked best for me in my situation. So if showers or Epsom salt baths are your thing, and, water can be very cleansing, dreaming can also be that form of how you can connect with yourself. So whatever it is, sit with yourself, and again, just as I said with the journaling, be honest with yourself. You're going to see things, you're going to feel things, you're going to experience things that you couldn't if your mind were just in overdrive and overthinking situations. So what you're trying to do with this process is to connect with your inner self, your soul self, your shadow self. And you are asking, what does it need? What does it need during this time? And then listen to it and do the things that it needs. So if your inner self is suggesting to you that you need more time outside in nature and to go for a walk, then trust that. Go for that. This is also tapping you into your intuition, okay? And your guides. So your guides are your guardian angels, your archangels, your ancestors, your ascended masters, your gods, goddesses, spirit, or God, whatever you refer to that omnipresent source of energy and light in your life. It's connecting you to spirit animals, okay? So whatever it is that you are connecting to, and you're getting messages in that form, you're going to figure out what information is coming through that is being filtered through some sort of trauma lens and what is unfiltered, raw, energetic advice. Okay? So in healing these traumas And doing the meditation, you are connecting with your raw energetic self and your spirit guides, whatever they may look like. And you are asking questions, you are getting answers, and you are seeing what aspects of yourself need to be healed and need to be integrated. Now, I will also say that during this process, I have actually found that a lot of healing occurs as well. So you may get some advice, maybe an archangel steps in and says, hey, you need to do this, and it's going to be very healing for you. Take that advice. Go do whatever the thing is that they're saying to do. But you might also get some other bit of advice that's through that trauma lens that's telling you to do something that maybe you're not comfortable doing, okay? Now, trust your instincts and trust your intuition and trust your guides, okay? Your guides will never show up and tell you to do something that's wrong, immoral, or anything like that, okay? They have your best interest at heart, and they want to see you heal, and they want to see you at your best. So trust the guidance that you receive, trust your intuition, and trust where you are being led. If you are having any issues getting into a meditative practice, there's something that you can do. First of all, I do have a couple of videos on this channel of guided meditation, so that might be something that suits you, where you just kind of need a little help to get to that place. There's also other guided meditations out there. If the ones that I have provided are not suitable for you, that's okay. There's also 1-minute meditation videos that are just, hey, if you don't have 5 minutes or 10 minutes, here's a 1-minute one, and it's super quick. It'll just do the trick. And also have compassion with yourself as you're going through this process, because sometimes when your thoughts are racing throughout the day, it can be very tough to calm those down enough for you to get into a meditative state, okay? So it takes practice, it takes time. Just remember that the more you try, the more you practice, you come every day and you're ready to go, the easier it will become, okay? So pick a time of the day, whether it is right before bedtime or right when you wake up, or if you have some time where you can actually be in a quiet environment and be able to get into a meditative state where you're able to calm your thoughts and to just go with the flow. Then increase that time every day. So if 1 minute is all you can spare and it's just right before bed, do that. If it's right when you wake up and it's before you start your day, perfect. Then increase it little by little, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And then you're going to start to create a habit. It says that it takes 30 days to create a habit. So if for 30 days you're able to pick one time every day and do this meditation, even if it's 1 minute, 5 minutes, whatever, you're going to start to build this habit, and you're going to know that it's now part of your routine, okay? So just stick with it, have compassion with yourself, and just know that you're not the only person that struggles with trying to calm down your mind and calm those thoughts that tend to bog us all down. All right, let's talk about step 3. This is going to be the hardest one. This was the hardest one for me. We are going to face our past pains. So, this is something that we're going to go back to past people, situations, traumas, whatever it was that caused us past pain. So, there was some major traumas in my life that needed some extra healing. Because I found out that just letting go of some people and situations weren't enough. So in many of these situations, I found that I had to actually go back and save myself from these people or situations. So I would imagine myself now going and saving my younger self and telling my younger self that this person or situation can't hurt you ever again, and saying you are safe. There have been many times I've gone back and just hugged a former version of myself and talked to them, saying things like, you did a great job and thank you for getting me through this. So that almost made me tear up right there just thinking about that again, because there's been times where I've had to do that a few times, okay? One of the later steps we're going to get into is healing in layers. And you know what? Yep, sometimes you have to revisit some of these places time and time again. So, this is also referred to as inner child healing work, okay? Because a lot of times the traumas you experience them as younger versions of yourself, okay? So, whether you are just a little tiny child, a teenager, even a young adult, many times we go through these traumas and we do not have the tools to deal with them at that time. So we suppress the feelings, the emotions, and even disassociate in times like that. So what's happening now is you are, as your adult self, understanding that some of the stuff that you went through, maybe you did not understand how traumatic it was as a child. But now as an adult, you're looking at it through this new lens, and you're having a better understanding of what it was you actually went through. And you're deciding that you're going to be this hero of your life because maybe in those situations, nobody saved you from whatever was going on. Okay? And that's sometimes some of the hardest stuff to wrap your mind around. Like, why wasn't someone here to save me from this situation? And the truth of the matter is now you are your own savior. You get to go back as this new, beautiful version of yourself that has the tools, that has the know-how on how to go back and help yourself to heal from those situations. So, if it was abuse, you might pick your little younger version of you up in your arms, hug them, say the nice things that they need to hear. You know, you are worthy, you are loved, whatever needs to be said. You're going to figure that out for yourself as you go back. But this part is not for the weak. I'm going to tell you right now, you are likely going to feel all those feelings all over again. It is very difficult. And you might go back a couple times because maybe the first time you go back, it's too much. It's too overwhelming and I can't put myself back in that situation again. And so I need to put a pause on this and be like, all right, younger self, I see you going through what you're going through. I'll be back to help you. What you're doing is you're teaching your younger self that it is safe now, that you are being looked after, and that someone is coming to save you. But it's not like a knight in shining armor, unless you consider yourself the knight in shining armor, because you are. You are now this protector spirit for your child self that went through this terrible stuff, and you get to go say, guess what? I'm here. I am going to save you. We're going to get through this together. And that's something that you always needed to hear. And now you get to be that for your younger self. And it is beautiful. Now, I will also say that if you've experienced numerous traumas, you might have to do this a few times. Okay? You're going to go back and you're going to address the situations, the people. And again, if it makes you feel better, I've actually, even as my adult self, punched someone in the face. Kicked them where it hurts, you know? Tell them something you always wanted to tell them. And it does make you feel better. Okay? So I'm doing this in a meditative state. I want you to be aware of that. I am not doing this in physical reality. I'm not knocking on someone's door and punching them in the face. We're doing this in the ethereal realm. We're doing this for our younger selves, okay? So that may have been a point of confusion for somebody, but you know what? If it makes you feel better, write a letter to that person and burn it afterwards. Tell them all the terrible things that you experienced that you couldn't tell them when you were a child, how you felt during whatever was happening, and whatever else you need to say. Then burn that letter and let it go. I will tell you that once you let go of whatever you've been holding on to with these traumas, it literally feels like a weight is lifted off your shoulders. And there is nothing that compares to that. And that's why we raise our vibration when we're doing this trauma healing, because it literally feels like we are lighter and we are raising up and we are elevated. And it's not a burden that you're willing to carry around anymore. You've healed from it. It's now safe to move on from it. And the last step with that is to forgive yourself and whoever did the trauma to you, because this is also a very cathartic way of just letting go of that burden that you've been carrying, okay? So even though whatever happened was probably pretty terrible, and I'm not saying that it wasn't, hold space for yourself with that, okay? Because healing happens in layers. Even though you might go back and deal with one particular situation, maybe there's another one where you have to go back 5 times. And maybe you didn't feel that you've said enough to that person to make them understand how it is that they made you feel during that situation. Okay? So have compassion with yourself. Make sure at the end of it you exert forgiveness. The reason for forgiveness is because you don't want that burning inside of you, because it's not your burden to carry. Okay? That person is dealing with their own karma and their own burden, and it's not on you to carry. All right, let's discuss step 4, which we did go into a little bit in the last one, which is healing in layers. So again, sometimes we need to address something more than once, and sometimes it's to help us recognize our toxic patterns of karmic cycles. Karmic cycles are lessons that we failed to master in a previous life or this one, and we are doomed to repeat it in this lifetime. I like to think of it in 3s. A lesson will come to you 3 times. You get 3 chances to master it. And if you fail to master it, you will repeat it. It may be with the same person over and over again, or it may show up in a new relationship. Each time the lesson gets harder, but once you master it, it will not show up any longer. Even if it does, we will have mastered that lesson and know how to deal with it next time. Some of us get stuck in these karmic cycles because we just don't learn from these lessons that the universe throws our way. I have learned a few that I had likely struggled with over many lifetimes. Setting boundaries was a big one for me, as I'm sure it was with most people. We let too many things slide. I would overgive my time when my cup was empty. You need to make sure your own cup is full before giving from your cup. So, I'm just reading some excerpts from the book that I am in the process of writing, so that's where the steps are coming from. So these are all my own words, again, my own process. You're going to figure your own situation out. But, I wanted to tell you that we all struggle with similar things, okay? So the whole purpose of me reading my own struggles was to let you know that, yes, I too have dealt with those same things, okay? I have done my shadow work. And I'm not saying I'm completely finished, because we all have work to do forever, it feels like, right? So when we talk about healing in layers, some wounds are deep. And maybe we've been hurt by the same person over and over again. Maybe we have struggled with the same karmic cycles over and over again. Okay? So when I think about setting boundaries, that is like a people pleaser thing. So that's wanting people to like you so much that you overextend yourself. And sometimes you tend to try to fill someone else's cup, even though yours is completely empty. So in my tarot channel, that's one of the other things that I say is make sure you fill your own cup up with love before you fill someone else's, right? We cannot fill from an empty cup. What we should be doing is doing self-love, self-care. Filling our own cup up first, right? It's like the airplane situation where they say, make sure you put the life vest on yourself first, then go help other people. If we are not filling our own cup up first, then we have nothing to give. We're overgiving, we're overpleasing, we're not setting boundaries. And so this means saying no. There's going to be times when someone's going to show up and they know that you're a people pleaser and they know that you don't set healthy boundaries. And they're going to consistently come in and say, help me with this. I need your time. I need you to do this. I need this from you. I need. But what we have to consider in those situations is there any balanced reciprocity? Is this person that's consistently showing up in your life asking you for your energy ever giving you anything back to help you fill your cup back up? Or are they just waiting until you have the energy and then taking it and then walking away and never doing anything to consistently help you refill it? Okay? So this is how you know who your true friends are. You're going to meet people that have a full cup, and they're going to be meeting you with your full cup. And you're going to be helping each other fill each other's cups with the excess that overflows because you've already both done your work, your self-love, your self-care. And you are now looking for that other individual or a group of people, it could be relationships, friendships, whatever, family members. You are all in a position to be able to reciprocate energy. And this is so important because we should be looking for this in any relationship we encounter. And also, the point of setting healthy boundaries is if that is not occurring for you, then we're drawing that line in the sand and saying, I cannot meet you where you consistently ask me to go because I'm beyond that point now. So if you have healed past something and you have people from your past consistently coming in that are honestly trying to drag you back to that timeline, it is okay to say no. You have to think of your best interest in situations like that. And sometimes, again, with the healing in layers, it could be difficult. Maybe you have to say no to somebody a few times for them to finally get that, okay, you know what, maybe I did cross this boundary line a few times, and now they're seeing the pattern and they're breaking free from it. Again, maybe some people just don't get that message either, and they want to consistently come and take, right? I want you to be aware of what energy exchange is. Anything that you bring your attention to, you are exchanging in that energy. Even if you say, I don't like such and such, or I don't like this person or this job, you are still having that energy in your mind and exchanging with it. Okay? So what I like to do is positive thinking. And I know we can't always be positive. It is what it is, right? But if I start to say, I like this kind of job, or I like this kind of person, or I like this kind of relationship, more of that will start to appear in your life. It's called the law of attraction. So what you put your energy into, even if it's negative and you don't want it into your life, it's still going to meet you where you're at, okay? The universe responds to who you are, who you show up as every day. So if you're constantly complaining about things in your life, you're going to be getting more of that. So stop feeding it your energy. Okay, let's talk about step 5, the last step, integration. All right, what does that mean? That means that you have gone through all the steps. You're finally learning that things can be done a different way, and you're seeing things through a new lens. So this means adapting to a new way of being. Since we have healed our shadows, we now are setting healthy boundaries and have shed older versions of ourselves. We can have different interactions with people, which shouldn't trigger us. Again, it may still, and that's okay. It just means we have a little more work to do. We can respond rather than react to things that we have now healed. Our interactions are more loving, and we can sense when someone else has not healed and may be looking to trigger us. All right, so let's talk about that. Yes, there's going to be people that are going to show up in your life that just want to see how much you can take, right? They're going to almost be set up like a trap, like a bear trap, or like the circle thing in the tree where it's like, I'm going to get you. It's not to try to bring you back to anything, but it's like a test, right? So once you've healed and once you have integrated this new version of yourself, you've grown, you have expanded, you are just this beautiful, awesome, radiant being that you are now, and you've gone through all this process, people are going to show back up, like come out from the woodworks, and they're going to be like, hey, I remember this other version of you that used to interact with me in a particular way. I'm going to test the waters and see if that version of you will come out so that we can interact again in that same manner that we used to. So it's like a test. You're going to approach that situation one of two ways, maybe one of many other ways, but you're either going to allow them to bring you down to that other version of yourself. And again, now you're throwing out all the work you did. You're not setting the boundaries. You're not using your voice. Or you're going to approach it from this new vantage point of where you are now. And you get to look at them and say, you know what? I don't do that anymore. You know, maybe this person used to go out with you and party and drink a lot. And you were like, yeah, let's go. That's fun. And then they show up and say, hey, let's go to a party. And you're like, yeah, I don't do that anymore. And again, they might try to convince you that you still enjoy it and it'll be fun and whatever. It is entirely up to you whether you say yes or no. So just be aware that as you start to integrate these newer versions of yourself, that you are going to have past people who recognize some other version of you try to bring that out in you, and it might trigger you, okay? So if being talked to in a particular way, maybe somebody was just very mean to you and they talked down to you, and you haven't talked to them in a hot minute, but now you're healed and they come at you and try to talk to you in that same way. This new healed version of yourself is going to be like, don't talk to me that way. I don't deserve to be talked to that way. And you're going to walk away from that situation. So that's what it's going to look like when you start to integrate your shadow. Okay, maybe before your shadow self would kind of cower in the corner and feel like you're being scolded again like a child. And this new version of you who's healed that part of you is now not willing to accept that type of behavior from anybody. And you're going to let them know that. So you're going to tell them, you know what? No, I don't have to listen to this. I don't have to talk to you. You don't have to talk to me that way. Either stay away from me and never talk to me again, or, you know, if it's a family member, be like, just right now I'm going to walk away. And just know that if you come at me like that in the future, I'm going to keep doing the same thing. Okay? So it doesn't matter who it is in your life. You are absolutely allowed to tell a family member not to talk to you that way and to walk away from them. I don't care if they start talking about respect and all this other stuff. Guess what? You know your worth. You know your value. And you're not going to let somebody else talk to you any way that you don't deserve to be talked to, or treated the way you don't deserve to be treated. It's basically you now being this higher version of yourself, now that you've integrated the shadow elements, and you're not accepting anything lower than what you know you deserve, okay? And that is absolute respect. And if you have problems telling somebody that, that's okay. Walking away and silence also suffices. Your silence speaks louder than words. So now that you have been through all the steps of uncovering and healing your shadows, what are the benefits? It can help you find your purpose in life. If you have a project that you have been thinking about doing that lights you up with passion, this may be your purpose. If you enjoy helping people, there may be a job out there that is your purpose, or maybe you are meant to create a company for yourself. It opens up creativity, not just the normal type either, like drawing, painting, etc. It opens up all types of creative solutions that maybe you or anyone has not thought of before. This can also give you more courage to face the unknowns in life. Unknown things can be scary, and we all get that butterfly feeling when we have to face things that we don't know the outcome to. By healing our shadows, we can have more confidence to be our true self, and the unknown parts don't appear as scary because we know we can face anything. So, that's just a few of the benefits of integrating your shadow work. So, you are going to be put into situations that are going to ask if you have what it takes to move forward and to integrate your shadow. If you fail, get back up and try again. Spirit's going to keep testing you to make sure that whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish in your life is something that you can handle doing. And so your biggest strength is going to be not how many times you fall down and fail at something. It's going to be how many more times you get up and keep trying. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked my content, like and subscribe. I truly appreciate your energy exchange. Namaste.